John Canzano. We're The Score. 92.3 FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
How about if your team is going undefeated in your league? Maybe the rest of your league's not that good and you had one good team that just was able to beat up on everybody else. But now that the SEC's eating its own, oh no, it's just so deep. The league is so deep. It just drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy too.
And Feinbaum can suck on a bag of potatoes.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
You were really proud of that one, weren't you?
Oh, man, you never know what you're going to expect and get out of this program here. Welcome in, everybody. It's Friday, November 22nd. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving. I don't know if I'm so much proud of that clip as it was what I found that seemed mildly amusing to put together for today's Open. Welcome you in, everybody, here as we get today's program off and rolling. Want to say thanks to our sponsor, BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. They're veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. They've got senior and veteran discounts available. Book now at 541-315-0122, or you can find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Welcome in. It is a Friday. Knight Uretsky joining me. Joey Keyran here in the Score Sports Cave? Den?
Cave?
We're
evolving.
Apparently we're testing out new things. We've added a TV to the booth, so I guess
did add a
we're
TV.
moving out of the closet phase.
See, here's the thing, is that like 2 weeks ago, I brought in this TV, and I was like, Joe, you finally got the TV. You got to bring the mini fridge. The problem is, it's been 2 weeks, and Joey has yet to bring in the mini fridge.
Well, if you want to, no, I'm not going to offer for you to come dig it out of my garage because you will, and I don't need you digging around my garage. God knows what you would uncover and unearth in there.
What do you got back there, Joey?
Dead bodies, tons of them, just loads of them.
Just loads of them?
My question to you, so this is, man caves, it's an important thing. Like,
yes,
you're a single guy living in a 2-bedroom apartment, so you've got an office, you've got the living room. It's all your man cave, really. But
the entire apartment,
the entire place is your man cave. So really, selection of where you put things is not necessarily all that important because it's yours. You don't have to share a space with a wife or something.
Well, yes, but that's living just on your own in
for
general.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. If I had a roommate, sure, I'd probably consult with them. If it was a guy, then we'd be like, okay, you cool with me putting this picture on the wall? Or
yeah,
something?
but location of stuff in a man cave, that's kind of important. You got to have the TV in the right spot. You've got to have the furniture in the right spot.
Yep.
So that begs the question. When I do bring in this, I was going to say so-called refrigerator. It's a refrigerator. There's nothing so-called about it.
I'm telling you, right here.
You want it right there, next to you.
Yes, right next to me.
The problem is this closet. This is literally what it was. It was a closet.
Okay.
Outlets are at a premium.
Yes.
Because there's not one anywhere close to where you're at right there.
The good news is I have extension cords if we need
we may have to do that up to the power strip.
Okay.
Or I guess we could wrap it around, but then it goes in front of the door.
No, I think you wire
go
it
up
back
and,
through the table and then you get it to the side. Because I think this is the ideal location. You can still plug in stuff on the side. You have its own little space. This is probably the most room, unless I
did think maybe underneath the table.
If it fits.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was.
The height,
I think it would, but that's a fair question. So
if it fits under the table, I don't hate it going under the table.
I would say, look,
the one thing that I do hate is that it's not here.
I was going to say, I don't expect
crack open a cold one to start the show if we don't have a fridge here to supply the coldness for the cold one.
Well, there is the break room.
Yes.
which has a refrigerator, so
does.
you could do that.
But that requires us getting up out of our seat in the middle of the show to go to the break room in the middle of maybe a break, but why make it?
Why have to take any extra steps? Well, we need it all right here. Well, I would say don't expect it this weekend, unfortunately. But maybe
you're gonna be
probably not
a little preoccupied this
probably
weekend.
Not next weekend with the holiday and maybe Sunday. Maybe we could work it out then. But maybe I can unearth it.
I'm just gonna let
you
know, I have the NFL Sunday ticket, so now you're able to come in here and watch Titan games if you really wanted to.
Don't let you think that for a minute that I didn't think about that possibility. Could come in and just hang out in here and watch games on Sunday. We'll make our own. Ooh, okay. So then next, where we put in the microwave.
Well, no,
and then we could just turn this into our little sports bar.
No, why are you going straight to a microwave? At that point, we need to get a Blackstone for the room.
Oh my goodness!
Can you imagine a Blackstone?
We would have no room to actually do our jobs in the sports.
Hear me out. I know that the radio board is great, but have you thought?
That's about the size of a Blackstone. Just move this out. We'll completely overhaul the studio and turn it into a restaurant.
We don't need that anyway.
Short order cook. We are accepting applications now. Welcome in, everybody. The program off and rolling as it usually is, with a whole bunch of nonsense to get the program started. It's a bye week for the Ducks. We're getting down to the final couple of weeks of the regular season in college football. High school football playoffs underway. NFL getting into its final few weeks here coming up. We're winding things down, and things are starting to ramp up. It feels kind of weird. High school football is wrapping up. We've got 2 weeks left there with semifinals this week and championships next week. College football, Ducks are on a bye. We're down to the final 2 weeks. Oregon State's season has kind of gone off the rails. Does this week feel weird to anybody else?
Yeah. I mean, it feels weird. I think it feels weird in the state of Oregon because the Ducks aren't playing. And
they've been the storyline all season long, and not having them playing this week is...
And it's weird, too, because the bye week is the second to last week of the season.
So late.
And they just miraculously, I guess not miraculously, just all of a sudden they were named one of the 2 teams in the Big Ten championship game. They decided, let's check all the... Okay, yes, Oregon is that team.
Such a roller coaster of emotions there through that couple of days after Oregon beat Wisconsin, because some people had heard, all they got to do is beat Wisconsin and they're in. And then there was reports that no, they're not. And then there was reports that yes, they were. And oh man, what an ordeal.
And that's one of those things. It's in the Pac-12, it was almost always certain, if Oregon wins this game, they're going to get in. You just knew the situation before the game.
That's the difference between having 12 teams in a conference and 18 teams.
Yeah.
Your tiebreaker scenarios were out of this world. But it's been kind of a weird week. I'm sure that the weather has had nothing to do with that. It has just been drab and dreary here in the Umpqua Basin.
Windy up in Seattle.
It is, they got power knocked out at their practice facility up there for the Seahawks, I think.
It was
they were having to take, I heard the clip, it might have been John Canzano, because that's usually on when I'm driving home. I think it was Gino talking about, we just got to take cold showers, but, other than that, everything else is fine. The sauna doesn't work, but, everything else.
Well, it was over 100,000 people were without power in Seattle because of the wind. It got 60 to 70 mile per hour wind up in Seattle. Down here, we were getting gusts of wind in Douglas County of up to 60 miles per hour. So
the weather, it's just been gray and dark and rainy for way too long, but I'm not tired of it yet. We haven't really sunk into the doldrums of winter, but this week has been kind of just low energy, and I think the weather has played into that.
I feel like it's always that first few weeks that are always the toughest, because
for me, it's once we've gotten into it, and it's it has been dark when you get up, dark when you get home, and you usually have cold and rainy and whatever. It's when things have really started to just.
For me, it's just kind of daylight savings happens, and that obviously makes it darker and whatnot. But for me, it's that 1 week where you go from it being sunny almost every day to a few days of rain to now when I'm doing the weather every night at 5 o'clock, it's rain.
What's the weather forecast like? Not Ollie?
Rain.
Yep.
And that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Every single day is rain, and it always takes a little bit for me to adjust to going from mostly sunny days to maybe you get a rainy day here and there to every single day it's going to rain. And eventually it does sink in that, like, when you wake up in the morning, you just expect it to rain. And then when it doesn't rain and you wake up on a day like today and you see blue sky outside and you see a little bit of sunshine, you're like, wow, what a beautiful day.
Get ready for the summer where it's going to be sunny. I'm supposed to fill like 30 seconds here. I don't know what else to tell you. It's going to be sunny. At least it's sunny, but the weather gets very repetitive.
Well, in the summer too, you also got the smoke, so there's also that factor towards the end of the summer. So you kind of report on that. But in the winter, it's just like 100% chance of rain tomorrow, high of 51, low of 40. Next day, guess what?
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah, it's literally like, guess what? More rain on Sunday.
You called it. Oh boy, yeah, it is that. It is that time of year. That is for sure.
And, when it rains, it pours, and that's certainly been the case for Oregon State this season. A tough season for Oregon State.
Look at the young man getting us back on track here as we get ready. This tailgate party's underway. We've got the canopy up. We've got the heaters out. Let's enjoy this time of year. It is football weather and it is football season. We get the tailgate party started as we always do. Let's crack a cold one.
Nothing gets a tailgate party going like a nice cold beverage. So let's crack one open and kick off today's show with our top story.
What a way to end out the home slate for Air Force. A 28-0 knockout punch shutout over the Pac-12 Oregon State Beavers as Coach Calhoun can continue the joy of coaching this team.
Obviously very disappointing. Did not play well in any phase of the game. So that we got to look at, what we're doing, what we're asking them to do, what they do well, and get that fixed immediately. That was really the first game, that it was just disappointing to watch us play. I think every other game this year would be, we're in close games, we're competing, we're at it. That wasn't it on Saturday. So that's disappointing.
Wasn't it? Says head coach Trent Bray in his Monday press conference with the media in Corvallis. That was the final call as Air Force shuts out Oregon State. The call on the CBS Sports Network. That was Jordan Kent on the call, which the final clip, it cut off just a little bit after where I cut it off there. Coach Calhoun gets the joy of coaching this team another week, and I was like, was it like a question whether or not he was going to be coaching any further?
Right.
Where are you going with this, Jordan? Nonetheless, former Roseburg kid Troy Calhoun picking up the win against Oregon State, but the storyline coming out of that one is shutout. Trent Bray's not wrong. That was the ugliest game by far this season for the Oregon State Beavers.
100%. There's so much to talk about how bad Oregon State played in this game. But the question that I have for you is, do you think it meant a little bit more for Troy Calhoun? Like, I understand that he went to the Air Force Academy, but being from Roseburg, Oregon, you probably grew up a Beavers fan, right?
There's a chance.
There's a chance. Do you think that it meant a little bit more for him beating the Beavs?
No,
because it just felt like he went out there and attacked them exactly how he wanted to.
No, I don't think it did. My guess is what meant a lot to him is the fact that his team, which has struggled to find wins, they wanted to go out there and kind of pick up some momentum. The offseason's right around the corner. You're looking to try and recruit. I know that's not easy at the academy schools.
I don't think recruiting at the academy is anything like recruiting at any other college.
But still,
program.
You want guys to. If you got somebody that's looking at going into the service, going into one of the academies, you obviously, if they're interested in playing sports, you'd like to show them, hey, look, we've got the ability to win football games. I know it's completely different than your usual setup, but nonetheless, I think he just wanted to win just for his guys. You just wanted to go out there and put together a good performance, and he probably saw on paper this was a great opportunity for Air Force to try and pick up a win. So the rivalry aspect or the native of Oregon aspect to it, I don't think it's there that much, I would imagine. He's been at Air Force long enough, and like you said, he played there, was a cadet, went through all that. He's been out of the state of Oregon long enough. My guess is this was more about him and his guys than anything that had to do with his roots based out of here in the Umpqua Basin. But shut out by Air Force,
I mean, it's just been a down year for Air Force. But, the last 2 weeks, they've turned it on. We were talking about it a little bit last week. Like, they had a big win against Fresno State the week prior, winning 36-28. And then this game against Oregon State, I mean, talk about giving the Beavers a taste of their own medicine. Dominated the time of possession, 41-56 to 18-04. I mean, that's the story of the game. Oregon State came in averaging over 35 minutes a game in terms of total possession, and Air Force just did that right to Oregon State, if not even more impressively.
This is the lowest of the lows for Oregon State this season. It's been a season that has not gone according to plan, and early on
not only this season, but it feels like in the past 5 years.
Oh, for sure, by easily, yeah. I mean, there were some low points for Jonathan Smith, but you always had this hope that the program was on the upswing. Right now, I mean, we're back to square one, and that just, if you are a fan of that program, there is a clip, and I don't know if it played at when we started this show back in August with week 1 of this program, but there's a clip of, I'm not sure, it would have been, it probably was 2 years ago is when I said this, that if I was a fan of the program, Jonathan Smith had built this program to a spot that, like, if I was a fan and I had the means to do so, I'm buying season tickets because I believe this program is going to be on the right trajectory. They're going the right direction. And then last year starts out great. Some things are going well, but we knew what was coming with the Pac-12 dissolving. And then Jonathan Smith leaves. Everybody else departs. And this program is back at square one. If you're a fan of this program, like, you've had the rug pulled out from underneath you. You've had your heart ripped out of your chest. I mean, where is the sign of hope, the glimmer of a silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel for the Oregon State fans? This is really terrible to go this deep into despair for Oregon State because we've got tickets to give away for the Pac-2 championship this weekend. I want to tell you that it'll be a fun game to go to, but I know that our words are telling you completely a different story. But we do have tickets to give away, by the way.
It is going to be a fun game, and I'll tell you why it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun game because this is the last home game of the year for Oregon State. It's senior night. A lot of these players are going to be a little bit extra motivated, and, well, at the end of the day, like, you got to win to make it to a bowl game. You got to win two straight games. You got to win this week, and you got to win next week against Boise State. Both going to be the toughest games.
They're both top 25 teams in the AP poll. Washington State not in the college football playoff rankings right now, but you've got Boise State, a college football playoff team. Washington State, a top 25 AP. I mean, this is the hardest stretch of the season for Oregon State, and they're playing their worst football. Early on in the year, we could wave it off that they were dealing with so many stinking injuries.
Yeah.
Last week was not that. I mean, you can't brush that under the rug because of injuries.
Well, initially what we were talking about was just the injuries defensively, but now, like, you're shut out offensively, and a lot of that isn't your fault. I mean, it kind of is because you're going 3 and out, but, like, they were kept off the field. Yeah. They only got 4 possessions in the second half. Air Force in the second half dominated time possession. So Oregon State started the second half. They got the ball back to start the second half, went 3 and out. After that point, Air Force held the ball for 21 of the final 28 minutes and 5 seconds. Air Force held on to the ball for 75% of the second half. Like, it's just tough. Like, when you're trying to get a new quarterback, it was Jabari Johnson's first start at quarterback. Like, you're looking to get him into the game, like, get him into a rhythm. And he couldn't get into a rhythm because he wasn't on the field.
Well, and they were rotating between Jabari and Giovanni.
Yeah.
They started out the week thinking it was going to be Gulbranson. He gets injured during the week, didn't practice all week. Just there's uncertainty everywhere. And I know I've heard coaches say it before, but, like, these final 2 weeks are audition time. Like, this is your chance to prove to this coaching staff that you deserve a spot on their roster, that you can earn your way into being a starter and a contributor next year. This is, these final 2 weeks, besides trying to get to a bowl game, it's audition time. It's already summer camp. It's already fall or spring camp, I should say, and it's already fall camp. This is about next year right now for the Oregon State Beavers.
It's just so crazy that at one point in the season, this team was 4-1. Their one loss being to Oregon.
Yeah.
And you were like,
okay,
feeling pretty confident about the group. They just won a double overtime game against Colorado State. They were going on the road to Nevada. It felt like they were going to win that game in Nevada, be at home for a ruckus crowd against UNLV. And since that point against Nevada, everything has just gone downhill.
And it's tough. I mean, that Nevada and UNLV, I mean, those were games where they played well. They just turned the ball over too many times.
The Nevada game, 4 interceptions.
Since that UNLV game, it is just they've scored 22 points in 3 games. Something's gone haywire.
20 points in 3 games. They scored 0 this past week, 13 the week before that, and 7 before that.
9. Is it 7? Is this once again College Press Box screwing me over by having the wrong score?
It was 7-44.
It was 44-7, not 44-9.
College
College Press Boxes keeps doing this to me.
Wait, is this Oregon State's game notes?
It's on just the schedule page on collegepressbox.com.
Wow, yeah, they wrecked you again.
Again. Okay, so I can do that math. If it had been 7 points, I would have told you 20. I know you are skeptical on my math skills. I could have done that addition there.
I'm not skeptical. Just based on the facts and the presentation before me, I've seen you mid-game using a calculator.
Yeah, I want to get it right. I don't talk and do math in my head very well, so... Yeah, I'm sorry.
Apparently.
We're not all geniuses, all right? Jeez Louise. That is our opening topic to the program as we get ready for the Pac-2 championship coming up this weekend, Washington State and Oregon State. It is officially a conference game.
Yep.
It is officially the only conference game. I heard this earlier this week. There's no trophy or championship that is truly going to be handed out with this game. But we all know what it is.
Do you think they should get a trophy? Yeah.
I mean, what are you gonna you're gonna put a trophy in the trophy case for winning one conference game?
Well, no, like they have trophies, like Minnesota and Nebraska. When Nebraska joined the Big Ten, they created the $5 bits of broken chair trophy, and that's a thing. And like Penn State and Michigan State, they have the land grant trophy.
So, I mean, are we then saying that this is becoming the big... I mean, Oregon and Washington has become a big one. And is this going to be Oregon State's big rivalry then?
Well, I'm just saying that, it doesn't take, you just having this, historic rivalry to, not have a trophy. Like this is going to be your rival. It absolutely is. Heck, next year, talk about playing a team twice in a season. You're playing them twice in the regular season. That's going to be a thing. I don't know. I'm in favor of the trophy. Maybe then it gets a little bit complicated because you have to play them twice. So who gets the trophy if you split the games? That's a good question.
You got to go.
So maybe you get what you do is you get a trophy that kind of breaks apart, and so you have to win both games to get both pieces of the trophy. I think there has to be something creative, but
I think you've hit a ridiculous level now.
What? I don't think that's a bad take. I think that I think Oregon and Washington deserves a trophy, the Duck and Dog trophy. If there was a trophy on it, and on one side it was a Washington Husky doing push-ups, and the other side was the Oregon Duck doing push-ups. I think that'd be pretty cool. No.
I mean, I think it would look cool.
Dude, I
just don't know if we need a trophy for everything.
Dude, I love Nebraska and Minnesota's $5 bits of broken chair trophy. That was literally just started because somebody was here, if you get a broken chair and $5 taped to the bottom of it, whoever wins gets that. And then they created a trophy from that.
But how long ago did they do that?
This was 2014.
Really?
This is in the last 10 years, I want to say. I think it was a thing between the mascots.
See, I like that. I like that because it's look, we don't really care. Just find something and tape some money to it, and then sure, that'll be our trophy. If you're going to an actual trophy store and
dude, it's literally this is the trophy. It's a broken chair with $5 taped to the bottom of it. I love this.
I mean, it's creative. I'll give them that. I don't know this. There doesn't need to be. I would say currently I don't think there needs to be a trophy for this game.
No.
Oregon State and Washington State. No.
So the $5 bits are broken. Yeah, I was right. 2014.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Just so impressive. We're going to be talking more about Oregon State Beavers with the voice of the State of the Beavs podcast. That's Matt Bagley, a friend of the program. He's been around a little bit, and now he is taping a podcast about Beavers sports. And he's going to be on with us to talk more about the State of the Beavs as they get ready for this matchup. We'll have that coming up here later on this hour in about, I guess it's 25, so about 15 minutes from now. The clock just rolled over as I was trying to put that together in my head. See, look, hey, I nailed that one. I got my math done. When we come back, we'll touch on the high school football playoffs that are coming up this weekend for our local teams. We'll be discussing that throughout the program here. And as mentioned, it's going to be wet. The Oregon State season has kind of gone off the rails. But if you'd like to go see Oregon State football, I'm really selling it here. We've got a pair of tickets to send somebody to the game. So keep the phone number handy here, and if you'd like to go, call us during the break. We'll just offer it up now, and we'll go throughout the show here. If you'd like to go see Oregon State football this weekend at Reser Stadium, final home game of the season for the Beavers, and it's against the other Pac-2 team, Washington State. And let's see, that is a 4:30 kickoff coming up this weekend. 3:30, excuse me. I've been thinking Central Time for way too many times this week here. So 3:30 kickoff for Oregon State and Washington State coming up this weekend. If you'd like to go, we've got a pair of tickets. 541-673-5551 is the phone number. That's 541-673-5551. We'll take a break. We've got the program off and rolling, not necessarily on the brightest of topics there, but nonetheless, here we are. Let's get you a sports update as we head to the break. Knight Urensky has your headlines.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Urensky. The Oregon Ducks overcame a 12-point deficit against rival Oregon State and stunned the Beavers in a 78-75 victory at Gill Coliseum last night in the only meeting between the two schools this season. Nate Biddle turned in a career night with 23 points and 14 rebounds to lead the comeback for the Ducks. Fellow Oregonian Jackson Shellstad added 15 points for UO. Michael Ratai scored 20 points and had 10 boards to lead the Beavers, who failed to score a field goal in the final 3 minutes of the game. The win stretches Oregon's winning streak in the rivalry series to 8 games and keeps the Ducks undefeated on the year. The loss was the first of the season for the Beavers. The Oregon State men's soccer team lost its NCAA tournament first-round matchup against Gardner-Webb 1-0 at Paul Lorenz Field in Corvallis. The loss means the end of the road for the Beavers. The Running Bulldogs advance on to face off against Denver in the second round on Sunday. OSU managed just one shot on goal in the contest, and Gardner-Webb scored the game winner in the 72nd minute. The Beavers end the year with a 10-5-3 overall record. In the NBA, the Portland Trail Blazers continue a 5-game road trip with a stop in Houston tonight. Portland is dealing with a lengthy injury report and will likely be without a few of its regulars. Matisse Thybulle remains out with an ankle sprain. DeAndre Ayton is doubtful with a finger contusion. Anthony Simons is questionable with a hand injury. And Scoot Henderson is also questionable after leaving Wednesday's game with a hamstring injury. Despite the number of injuries, Portland has won 3 of its last 4. Blazers will try to get back in the win column tonight against the Rockets. The game tips off at 5 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 4 p.m. right here on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Also coming up this weekend, the high school football playoffs continue. The Oakland Okers face Jervis in the 2A semifinal Saturday at Cottage Grove at 4:30.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Discover a vibrant assisted living and memory care community where residents truly feel at home. Volante of Roseburg is opening soon at 100 Winery Lane. Join the Founders Club to enjoy benefits like a 2-year rate lock, 2 months rent-free, and half off the community fee. Call 458-803-5372 or visit volanteoforegon.com to join the wait list. Volante of Roseburg, where exceptional care meets exceptional living.
chilling at the tailgate party, getting ready for the games. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Hey, have we mentioned lately that we stream our program on our YouTube channel, 1490 The Score on YouTube. Find us there as we broadcast and bring you coverage of local sports and football here in the Umpqua Basin. Just a couple of local guys talking sports here on The Score. So find us there on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button to follow our account, and then you can get updates when we are going live with another broadcast. That does include our live local sports coverage as well, like Roseburg basketball coming up this winter sports season. So there you go.
It's like, what, 2-3 weeks ago away?
It was it's December. It might have been 2 weeks from this last Wednesday.
Wow.
Which really makes me think I got to get moving on a lot of things here. Speaking of high school sports, we got some playoff action coming up this weekend. Alrighty. The Oakland Okers and the North Douglas Warriors are both into the semifinals of their respective playoffs. In 9-man football, the Oakland Okers looking to try and get back into the state championship game for the first time since 2022. Last year got knocked out in the semis, looking to avoid that fate this time around. And the North Douglas Warriors are into the semifinals, looking to punch their ticket to the 8-man football state championship game. They've got a rematch against a team they already beat this season. These are the two teams we kind of figured we had a legitimate chance of seeing make it this deep in the postseason. Really fun to see both Oakland and North Douglas pull out victories last week.
Yeah.
These are two teams that had to really work for it last week.
Absolutely. I mean, we were both at the game, Oakland versus Myrtle Point Pacific, and man, they gave them a run for their money, Oakland, that is. They were struggling to get anything going offensively. Eventually, Gabe Williamson and the ground game just kind of kept going, and they finally wore down Myrtle Point Pacific. But, man, it took a while for him to get going. Really competitive game. They came up big defensively, especially in the big moments that mattered. And, you know, they live to see another day. And that's certainly the case. When you play a team twice in a season, you're probably going to get a better look at them the second time around. They're going to give them a better shot. But, man, it was a close game. Mm-hmm. Oakland was able to pull away late, and now they got Jervis, who wants some revenge on Oakland from last season.
This could be an interesting one. We've heard some multiple reports from Tom Eggers, who was there covering it for the newspaper, from Dan Bain, who was there doing the game on the radio for us last year. The game got heated last year. The officials were not the favorite people in the stadium for the Jervis fans, who were unhappy with the result of that game. Sounded like some things got a little excited on both sidelines. There was some going back and forth in that one. That game was played at Sutherland High School. It was a quarterfinal game last year. This year they meet in a neutral site at Cottage Grove High School, so maybe that'll help temper some of the emotions around the game going into it. But obviously, a game that got a little heated last year. Jervis is a program that has been on the upswing. They have not seen a lot of success. This is their first time in the semifinals since 1951.
Wow.
And so they're a program that has not seen a lot of success, but last year they got the ball going. Their first season where they had a win in the playoffs. This is the first season this year since 1951 that they have had multiple wins in a playoff. So Jervis is a team that's kind of on the up and coming, but a rematch here from last year's quarterfinal where Oakland knocked Jervis out of the playoffs. Now they meet in the semifinals with a berth in the state championship game on the line. For Jervis, I don't believe they've ever made it to the state championship game. They've never won it, but I don't believe they've ever made it to that state championship game. I need to double check on that one, but
a lot on the line for them.
A lot on the line for that team here this year. On the other side, North Douglas, we talk about rematches. North Douglas got a rematch this week against Cross Point Christian, a team they beat earlier in the year. Two teams that were ranked pretty highly throughout the season in the coaches poll. And when they met during the regular season, North Douglas blew them away. But we saw North Douglas this last week really get challenged. Team had to dig deep. They had a bye week, and I'm curious what you think on this. They had a bye week, and they look like they came out a little rusty. I got a chance to go watch that game in person. You were off on the road doing other things on your weekend. Good for you.
I would have loved to be.
I know you would have. No, I'm like literally telling you, good for you. You didn't, dive into continuing to do work-related things on the weekend. But they kind of, there was a lot of self-inflicted issues in that game for North Douglas. So I kind of wonder how much that bye week, that extra bit of a layoff for them before they get into the playoffs, maybe hurt that team going into that matchup.
Not only that, but I think for Doofer, like, it was a big game for them. Nobody really counted on them putting up a fight, I mean, we've been talking about North Douglas all season long. We've been hyping them up, and, Doofer was a little bit of that underdog that came in and, gave their best shot, and they had an opportunity to win the game, 4th down, and, all of a sudden Hunter Vaughn breaks away and gets another touchdown to take the lead. A lot of missed 2-point conversions.
Yeah,
definitely
those
felt
would have
like
been
the
big.
team was a little bit rusty, but at the same time, like, I think it's a good wake-up call, especially going up in a rematch against Cross Point Christian, which, again, like, same thing with Oakland and Myrtle Point. Like, you could argue that Cross Point Christian, especially in league play, put up the best fight against North Douglas this season. And, it was close in the first half, and then North Douglas pulled away in the second half, was able to win 52-14 in that battle of unbeatens. But it was, I believe, 14-6 at the half. It was a really close first half, and then North Douglas was able to pull away. You got to think that that's on the back of Cross Point Christian's mind. They're coming into this game, second time they're seeing North Douglas. They knew what worked in the first half. The second half got away from them. Now they're just trying to replicate that here this week, and we could have a really, really close game similar to what we saw from Myrtle Point, Pacific, and Oakland this past week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this second go-round changes some things there for North Douglas as they welcome in, or as they take on Cross Point Christian. We've got neutral site fields. Oakland's at Cottage Grove this weekend. North Douglas is down at Grants Pass for their matchup, so you got to head on the road if you want to go see these games. We're going to have live coverage of Oakland football on one of our sister stations, I-101 FM. That is 100.7 or 100.9. There's the two different frequencies there. You can tune in and catch it. I always forget which one's supposed to come in better where, but just test them out. They're just just a little turn of the dial away from each other. So 100.7, 100.9, that is I-101 FM. We'll have the live coverage for you there on the radio. You can also listen live to I-101 FM on 541radio.com and on the 541 radio app. Easy way to be able to tune in for that game if you can't make it on the road to go check out the Oakland Okers at Cottage Grove High School. And also, this is the semifinals, so the OSAA starts picking up some games at this point in time. They start broadcasting them on their own networks, so you can tune in for North Douglas football from Grants Pass. You can find broadcast coverage of that. Go to OSAA.org, and you'll be able to find the broadcast links to either watch or listen to that game of North Douglas at Grants Pass. That one's at 1 o'clock. Oakland is at 4:30, and so you got a chance to have a little high school football doubleheader on your Saturday. All right, we got to get to a break here. We'll continue to talk more about the upcoming high school football playoff games. We're both looking forward to covering Oakland coming up tomorrow. We've got a game that we're covering tonight for the OSAA as well here in Roseburg. But we got to get to a break because when we come back, we're going to dial up Matt Bagley. He is the host of State of the Beavs podcast. That is a part of the Sports Illustrated network there. He's going to be joining us to talk more about just what is the state of the Oregon State football team. I mean, that's kind of the big question right now. We're going to have Matt joining us when we come back, so don't go anywhere. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving here on The Score.
With a Score 92.3 FM, 1490 AM news update, I'm Ashley Claiborne. Officials with the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians said the Biden administration has turned its back on tribes with what they believe is the wrong decision on a Medford casino. Cow Creek Release said they've learned the application for the Coquel tribe to build a casino in Medford will move on to the next step, paving the way for Oregon's first urban and off-reservation casino more than 165 miles from the Coquel ancestral lands of North Bend. The release from the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians said that there are devastating impacts that mass off-reservation casino approvals will have on Indian country. And information released Thursday from the Oregon Department of Education is highlighting Roseburg Public Schools' continued progress in attendance and steady performance in key indicators of student success. The release said staff at RHS are continuing to strengthen academic supports for 9th and 10th graders to bring the on-track rate back to the record highs that were seen in 2021. See more on these stories and complete local news coverage at 541radio.com. In sports, the Oregon Ducks overcame a 12-point deficit against rival Oregon State yesterday in college hoops and stunned the Beavers in a 78-75 victory at Gill Coliseum last night in the only meeting between the two schools this season. The loss was the first of the season for the Beavers. And coming up this weekend in high school football, the playoffs continue with the Oakland Oakers facing Gervais in the 2A semifinals Saturday at Cottage Grove. Tune in for coverage of that game starting at 4:15 on I-101 FM. And the North Douglas Warriors have a regular season rematch with Cross Point Christian in the 1A 8-man semifinals Saturday in Grants Pass. That game gets underway at 1 p.m. See more sports scores, schedules, and updates at 541radio.com. Rain likely today with a high in the mid to upper 50s tonight. Rain and 42 for a low. News and information 24/7 at 541radio.com. I'm Ashley Claiborne with the Score, 92.3 FM, 1490 AM.
We're your holiday hub for unbeatable bargains at your local Coastal.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, with just what the country needs.
Visit us from Wednesday, November 20th through Monday, November 25th and save before Black Friday. Check out our toy selection for the latest arrivals and find the perfect activity for your energetic child, like farm hoppers, inflatable bouncy toys that come as a pig, cow, or unicorn. And we haven't forgotten about your pets. Give your best buds a reason to celebrate with buy one, get one 50% off all pet treats from brands like Bacon Strips, Pepperoni, and Nulo. Prepare your wardrobe for new temperatures with new offers and apparel, including a free $20 Coastal gift card when you buy a pair of Ariat boots for men or women in store. Discover great discounts like these store-wide and online.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, with just what the country needs.
Catch Black Friday deals today and save even more at Coastal.
Recapping games and looking ahead to the weekend, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Welcome you back here to Score Sports Cave.
Yeah!
All right, let's test
go.
it out. I mean, let's do it.
I personally like the Score Sports Den, but the cave, I'm warming up
Man
to
Cave. It's our
Man
sports
cave. Yeah. I like the Den. Like, I grew up with the Den. So
I know
maybe,
you do.
Maybe
the
that's
Ureskis have made their point on the Den very clear. I understand.
Yeah.
Welcome back in here, everybody. Joey Kieran along with Knight Uretsky. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving. Appreciate you being here with us on your Friday afternoon. We appreciate our guest coming to us here on the phone line for being with us here this afternoon, hosting the State of the Beavs podcast. It is Matt Bagley, friend of the program. Matt, welcome in, man. Good to have you.
Hey, Joey, thanks for that introduction. And I just want to say, congrats on the cave. I remember when it was just a closet.
Yeah, it still is. We've just put in more stuff.
Okay. See, here's the thing, is that Joey is... He's very hesitant to give up the title, the Score Sports Closet. My situation is we put a TV in here. I've been petitioning to get a mini fridge in here. I think that you got to elevate the situation. If you just say that you're living in a closet, it implies something negative. But if you say, we have the Score Sports Cave, the Score Sports Den, I feel like it has a more positive connotation to it. What do you think?
Well, I hope you're not living in it. Like working in it, that's one thing. But yeah, living in it, that's just sad.
You know this industry. We kind of spend a little bit more time in here than we probably should. So
I know it a little more than I should. Yeah, that's a good point.
He's young. He's impressionable still. He hasn't really experienced how much. Yes, we kind of are the little brother of the radio cluster, and a closet is about all they could afford for us. Welcome in Matt Bagley here to talk some Beavers with us, Matt. we've got tickets to give away to the game this weekend. We started out the program talking about this last game against Air Force. Can you help us put a positive spin on something so that maybe somebody is willing to take these tickets from off our hands here?
No. Sorry, guys.
Fantastic. Great for coming in. Thanks for coming in, Matt. It was great having you.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to believe that the youth movement in the secondary that has been exposed over the last 5 games will play their best game of the season, right? I want to believe that some of the in-state recruits that have been thrust into big roles on the offense, guys like Darius Clemens, who was a 4-star recruit to Michigan, transferred to the Beavs this past spring, guys like Trent Walker, the Beaverton High Beavers alum, who walked on at Oregon State because it meant that much for him to continue a family legacy in Corvallis. I want to believe that those guys can step up and play their best game of the year. The problem is I've watched this team all season, and I've watched this team get worse over the last 5 weeks. So, when you get spanked by the Air Force Academy, it's really hard for me to turn around and say, yeah, the Beavers are going to be great this weekend. I'd love for it to happen, and it's any given Saturday, right? But on paper, Wazoo should be favored in this game.
Yeah, I mean, totally. They very much should. We've seen, like you said, regression over the last couple of weeks for this team. Is it just the injuries? Is it players that are new? I mean, what do you see as the signs for the regression right now?
Yeah, to me, it's the perfect storm. The injuries are definitely the biggest factor, especially on defense. They just don't have the guys in the front 7 to tackle, and they don't have the guys in the back 7 to cover. I think about, with the run defense, that Nevada game was sickening. 5 touchdowns on the ground, all of them seemingly bigger than the last. We're talking 40, 50, 60-yard runs. When those happen, it's not because the offense just crushed you. It's because somebody missed an angle, somebody missed a tackle, somebody completely whiffed on an assignment, right? Big plays in the run game are always the fault of the defense. And I think about the San Jose State game 2 weeks ago, where the Spartans saw man coverage, press man coverage. That means your corners are on an island, 1v1, pretty much the whole game. And they torched it. Nick Nash, to his credit, he'll be thriving on Sundays soon, the San Jose State wideout. I think he had 3 or 4 really big, deep catches in that game, 30-plus yards. And so, part of it's injuries. They don't have the players to play the way they want to schematically. But then I turn around and also say, well, if you don't have the players, you've got to change your scheme. And so I put part of this on coaching. I think at quarterback in particular, you can't say, well, Giovanni McCoy is the root of the problem, and you can't say, well, Ben Gulbranson's the root of the problem, and, well, Jabari Johnson's the root of the problem, when no matter who they have under center, right, the Beavers are putting these quarterbacks into pretty bad situations where the only thing that's going to happen is they get sacked or fumble or throw a pick. I think coaching really needs to step it up, and play calling as well. But then, like I said, it's a perfect storm. All of these coaches are thrust into big roles in their first years. Keith Hayward was a position coach under Mario Cristobal at Oregon. Now he's a defensive coordinator. Ryan Gunderson was an offensive coordinator in name only at UCLA because Chip Kelly called the plays. And then you look at Trent Bray, who was an outstanding DC, and now he's the head guy. So I think you have inexperienced coaches. I think you have some really well-meaning recruits that want to play in Oregon State, want to play D1, but they just don't have the talent level. And then I think you have a lot of guys who do have that talent level who are injured right now, and the depth of this team has been exposed.
You mentioned the three quarterbacks that have seen action this season. Jabari Johnson got the start this past week, and obviously he didn't get a lot of time on the field with the way that Air Force was able to dominate the time of possession. But overall, his first start on the road in a tough environment at 7,200 feet. What did you see from him in his first start? Kind of a similar story to Darius Clemens, a four-star recruit from the Pacific Northwest, comes back to the Pacific Northwest after a stint in the SEC.
Yeah, well, I thought this was Jabari Johnson's best game, and that's definitely a silver lining. He had a couple drives where I thought his footwork really shined, and his ability to laser the football down the field was something that we have not seen from him in games this season. I'm assuming the coaches have seen some things in practice just because they've had him since the spring, but just in games, that was the first time where I really saw him as a drop-back passer. If they go with Jabari Johnson tomorrow, which I think we can expect, given the way the Giovanni McCoy experiment has gone, and given the very short leash they gave Ben Gulbranson, I think Jabari Johnson is the presumed starter tomorrow, should get a lot of that action. I'm really interested to see how much of a drop-back passing game he has, because with the exception of last week in Colorado Springs, he didn't show that kind of play. If he can really hone that in and develop that part of his game, all of a sudden the Beavers have some balance on offense where they can run with him. I think he's their best runner by far at the quarterback position, and throw. And that opens up a whole lot of things for them that they haven't had this year.
Talking with Matt Bagley here, State of the Beavs podcast, as he's covering Oregon State and helping us out figure out what's going on with these Beavers. So we're looking at Washington State coming up this week. I did see that you had a kind of keys to the game article that you put out here today that leading into this matchup. Run us through. What is the game plan that gets Oregon State a victory here this weekend?
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's really similar to the way they came out against Oregon at the start of the year and had success for a half. You start with great defense. You've got to stop this Washington State air raid passing attack. And I hark back to that game 2 weeks ago against San Jose State. They line up in press man coverage. They dare the Spartans to throw, and they did so. And they beat the Beavers that way. I don't think that's an effective way to win against this type of offense. I think they have to mix up their coverages, and I think the corners, a lot of young DBs thrust into starting roles this year due to injuries. You have to hope those guys can step up and play the best game of their season. That's the first thing they have to do. The second part of the equation for me is protecting the football on offense. I think about that Nevada game earlier this past month where they had it won. They were running the ball at will, and they weren't getting a lot of stops defensively, but they had enough stops to the point that the Beavers had a touchdown lead. And Giovanni McCoy threw 4 interceptions, 3 of them in the positive side of the 50-yard line into enemy territory, 1 of them in the end zone. It was a brutal way to lose. Or I think about that San Jose State game 2 weeks ago where Ben Gulbranson has the lead and throws a pick 6 that loses the lead, and they never recover it. If they can protect the football on offense, they have a shot that way. And then the third factor for me, and this is the biggest one to me, I love Anthony Hankerson. I think he's going to be a thriving NFL starting running back. But one thing that is undeniable about him when you look at his stat lines is he runs harder and has better days statistically, more yards per carry, more touchdowns, when he doesn't have to be the lead guy. When Anthony Hankerson has to carry the ball 25 or 30 times, which has been the case most games since Jam Griffin got hurt against UNLV, they've really struggled. He's not running as effectively as he was. When Anthony Hankerson only has to carry 15 or 20 times, that running game becomes one of the best running games in the country because he has this unbelievable physicality and ability to pinball defenders. I love watching the violence and strength with which he runs when he's fresh. So the third factor for me is Saladin Allah. If Oregon State can lean on their true freshman running back to spell Anthony Hankerson, I'm talking 9, 10, 11 carries, good carries, positive yards, I think that running game can get going. You pair that with, hopefully, cross your fingers, Jabari Johnson plays clean, and you pair that with, hopefully, a secondary that can get lucky with an interception or two off of John Mateer, and you could talk me into an upset. But all three of those things have to happen for it.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it all plays out here for the Oregon State Beavers this weekend as they welcome in the Washington State Cougars for a 4 o'clock kick from Research Stadium in the Pac-2 Championship. Matt Bagley, host of the State of the Beavs podcast. Hey, let folks know how to find you here in our final 30 seconds.
Yeah, State of the Beavs on any podcast platform. That's State of the Beavs. And I also write about Oregon State athletics on SI.com.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend football coming up here, and we'll catch up with you again here soon.
Yeah, sounds great, Joey. Thanks a ton.
Yeah, no problem. That is Matt Bagley joining us here as we wrap up hour number 1 of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Back with the second hour and talking Ducks into the Big Ten Championship game when we return here on The Score.
For your Score Sports update, I'm Nate Uretsky. The Oregon Ducks overcame a 12-point deficit against rival Oregon State and stunned the Beavers in a 78-75 victory at Gill Coliseum last night in the only meeting between the two schools this season. Nate Biddle turned in a career night with 23 points and 14 rebounds to lead the comeback for the Ducks. Fellow Oregonian Jackson Shellstad added 15 points for UO. Michael Ratai scored 20 points and had 10 boards to lead the Beavers, who failed to score a field goal in the final 3 minutes of the game. The win stretches Oregon's winning streak in the rivalry series to 8 games and keeps the Ducks undefeated on the year. The loss was the first of the season for the Beavers. The Oregon State men's soccer team lost its NCAA tournament first-round matchup against Gardner-Webb 1-0 at Paul Lorenz Field in Corvallis. The loss means the end of the road for the Beavers. The Running Bulldogs advance on to face off against Denver in the second round on Sunday. OSU managed just one shot on goal in the contest, and Gardner-Webb scored the game winner in the 72nd minute. The Beavers end the year with a 10-5-3 overall record. In the NBA, the Portland Trail Blazers continue a 5-game road trip with a stop in Houston tonight. Portland is dealing with a lengthy injury report and will likely be without a few of its regulars. Matisse Thybulle remains out with an ankle sprain. DeAndre Ayton is doubtful with a finger contusion. Anthony Simons is questionable with a hand injury. And Scoot Henderson is also questionable after leaving Wednesday's game with a hamstring injury. Despite the number of injuries, Portland has won 3 of its last 4. Blazers will try to get back in the win column tonight against the Rockets. The game tips off at 5 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 4 p.m. right here on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Also coming up this weekend, the high school football playoffs continue. The Oakland Oakers face Jervis in the 2A semifinal Saturday at Cottage Grove at 4:30.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
The spirit of the holidays should be a vision of warmth and comfort. For some of our friends and neighbors in Douglas County, the hopes and dreams of the season have been drastically changed. You can help when you wish upon a star. Road Credit Union and The Score would like to add your name to the list of people who see a tough situation and want to help. We're looking for people who will take a few minutes and tell us a story of a Douglas County area individual or family in need. Road Credit Union and the Score's Wish Upon a Star program can make something special happen in what may seem like an impossible situation. If you know someone who truly needs help, nominate them at 541radio.com or send a letter to Wish Upon a Star, 345 Northeast Winchester Street in Roseburg, 97470. You can also drop a letter off at Road Credit Union on Northeast Stevens or on Garden Valley. Please be sure to include as much detail as possible and daytime contact information. Thank you for making Wish Upon a Star a special part of our holiday celebration. Happy holidays from Road Credit Union and The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Struggling to find good help? Streamline your recruitment all in one place. Lotus Media Group. With our innovative and time-tested solutions, you can reach candidates across all platforms by utilizing the power of print, radio, and digital advertising and elevate your hiring game with Indeed, Google Jobs, ZipRecruiter, and over a dozen more. Whether you're a small or large business, we have flexible pricing packages to fit any budget. Indeed, we do. Visit nrtoday.com/recruitment and let us do all the work for you.
Local sports talk in Douglas County. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. Fridays, noon to 2, right here on 92.3 FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. We're The Score, Douglas County's home for sports. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
How about if your team is going undefeated in your league? Maybe the rest of your league's not that good and you had one good team that just was able to beat up on everybody else. But now that the SEC's eating its own, oh no, it's just so deep. The league is so deep. It just drives me crazy.
Drives me crazy too.
And Feinbaum can suck on a bag of potatoes.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Hour number 2 of our program. Welcome back in, everybody. Thanks so much for spending your day with us here on The Score. Program reminder coming up tonight. We've got Blazers basketball for you. Feels really weird to not have the Friday night pregame show tonight, not have high school football tonight for you. But we are hitting the final few games of the season, and that means games are moved to Saturdays. So we've got Saturday football coming up tomorrow as high school playoffs continue. We'll have a game for you on I-101 FM as we get a chance to cover Oakland football in the semis. So tonight we've got
high school football.
We do have high school football. Knight and I do. We just won't have it on the radio.
If you guys want to hear us yap, we got 6A football here in Roseburg.
Can't get enough of us, yes.
At Roseburg High School, we are hosting a playoff game.
That is true.
They decided to give us the keys to the broadcast. And, they just were like, how about those guys?
They were like, nobody suggested anybody better. So, no. But Blazers basketball starts at 4 o'clock here tonight. I looked at this. College Press Box is really screwing me over here. This is a website that's kind of meant for the media, a one-stop shop to be able to find game notes on all sorts of stuff. They've got the Oregon State-Washington State game listed at 3:30 on CW. It's a 4 o'clock kickoff. So they had a score incorrectly earlier. Now they got a kickoff time incorrect. It is screwing me up left and right.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of that kid, or not the kid, but the meme where it's like the kid and he's like, those kids would be really mad if they could read. It's like the writing's on the wall, Joey.
I
don't know why you keep believing this.
I guess so. I mean, it's supposed to be everything but the pregame meal. It's the one-stop shop for college media, football media. Apparently, somebody's not fact-checking what's going on here. Either way, so that is that got me there. So I just thought of that because I was giving the time of the Blazers game tonight. It's a 4 o'clock start for that, with pregame tip-off at 5 o'clock tonight here on The Score. As Knight mentioned, we do have high school football playoff action going on in Roseburg tonight. No, unfortunately not our Roseburg Indians. It is the South Medford Panthers taking on the Newburgh Tigers in the semifinals of the 6A state championship bracket. We've got to talk to the OSAA guys when they come down here. I'm not really sure the top tier, top 11 or top 12 teams is called the Open Championship. And then the bottom tier is called the 6A State Championship, and that's the 13 through 28. So it's the bottom 16 seeds in the rankings at the 6A level. They broke it up into 2 brackets. Does this make – am I stupid? I mean, we've covered this here. We've covered this just a little bit. I apparently can't do math. I can't read, and now I just don't understand things. So am I crazy? This feels like it is labeled incorrectly.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would say that you're crazy. I would say that
I'm stupid.
The bosses are crazy for hiring you, considering that you can't do math and can't read.
Hey, I've lasted this long, and I've kept this station rolling.
Yeah. No, here's my point.
Yeah, I don't believe it, but I'll be running this ship before you know it.
No, it kind of makes sense to me. Not that, like, I think that you need a different term. Like, I like the Columbia Cup thing that they did.
That was good.
That made a lot of sense. But I don't hate the open bracket thing because
I just think they should switch. I think the bottom should be the open and the top one, because the top 12 teams, they're playing for the true 6A state championship. So that should be called your state championship bracket, and then the bottom one's your open championship.
I think that the open should be the top, what is it, 6 teams? Is it 8 teams?
It's 12 teams in
the top.
Are they the emergency vehicles stopping outside? Ah, crap. If we leave the studio, you know what's going on. The top 12 teams are in the top.
Here's what I think. I think the top 12 teams in the state, regardless of division. Like, if there's a 5A school that is like the top team in 5A, and you think they're one of the top 12 teams, they should be in the open division. I just think it should be the top 12 teams in the state, regardless of division. After that, then you can break it down per division. And I like the open idea. It makes a lot of sense, but also, like, I mean,
it's currently labeled the open, and it's not. It's only 6A schools.
Well, yeah, and it's the Portland schools,
well,
Portland
it's the top 12
schools,
seeds in the 6A school level, and that's always the Portland and maybe a mix-in of Sheldon and a Salem school in there from time to time.
Exactly, and maybe you get Sheldon, and then maybe you get a Salem school, or, in 2017, South Medford makes it all the way to the championship, one of those situations. But I don't hate it. Coach Singler, who we talked to, or you talked to earlier this week, kind of broke it down a little bit about how it's like, those are the 12 best teams. Like, there's no team that's won the state championship that has been ranked below number 5 in the rankings heading into the postseason.
Yeah, and that's why they broke it. I mean, we talked about this on the airwaves when it was happening, but that's why they broke it up into 2 different brackets, is because they had looked back historically since they expanded and started using a seeding process based off of strength of schedule, all their math that they do to figure out where you're ranked. They look back to the results, and I think it might be outside of the top 5. Like, I think it was the top 7 seeds. Nobody outside the top 7 seeds had even made it to the championship game. Yeah. So 6A football is extremely top heavy, and that's why they broke it up and have 2 brackets so that there is the opportunity for teams to have more than just a chance to go get killed by some team in the top 7 in the first round of the state playoffs. So I like all of that. I just right now I don't agree with how they've relabeled things, since it was the Columbia Cup before, and now it's the lower tier is called your 6A state championship bracket.
I don't get that. I don't get why they went away with the Columbia Cup.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Was there an actual trophy?
There was a trophy. I mean,
if it's not in use, can we give it to Oregon State and Washington State?
I believe it was kind of like the. I think there was a trophy. At least I assume there was, but I think it was just like the other trophies. It just wasn't the blue state championship trophy that they hand out for the state champions.
Yeah, and that's what Coach said. It's like the blue trophy or the blue championship.
Yeah, I mean, that's coveted, and that should be the top. I mean, that should be that top 12 seeds. That should be what they're playing for. Yeah. I just the wording on all of this is what's tripping me up here. But so we've got the second tier bracket, South Medford and Newburgh coming up tonight. If you really did want to hear the 2 of us doing a football game because you miss us on a Friday night, well, you can find us on OSAA.org, and you can listen to the OSAA radio network broadcast of South Medford and Newburgh.
Or if you want to come out to watch a high school football game, you can come out to Finlay Field and watch the game tonight, because there is football happening on a Friday in Roseburg.
And I really, we've been kind of preparing for this matchup. I think tonight this game that's going to be happening at Roseburg High School. I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup here. I think these are 2 evenly similar matched teams. I think they kind of have similar styles. They want to run a lot to open up any sort of passing attempts. They've got some quality guys at quarterback and then a stable of running backs behind them. I think these could be some pretty good matchup here between these two teams.
Yeah, a lot of all-league players, too. Remember? I mean, there's like 20 on the South Medford team. How many were on the new?
I mean, like 11 on each side of the ball practically. So
Yeah.
Newburgh, if you want another reason, Newburgh has been the cardiac kids in the playoffs. They were down against Oregon City, a team that went 1-8 in the regular season. Now, they came out of the best conference in 6A football, the Tri-City Conference, or the Tri-River Conference, and that everybody in that league got in, including the last place team, Oregon City, who was 1-8 on the year. And Oregon City almost pulled off the upset against Newburgh. They rallied back to win late. Then last week they rallied back to win late against Grants Pass. So they have just escaped in the first two rounds. Now they've got South Medford, who has just absolutely rolled over everybody in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a competitive game. It should be fun.
And it's interesting. You were telling me about this, that South Medford, interestingly enough, they are the highest seed, the best seed in this lower bracket, although they could have possibly, if things had worked just slightly different, could have been in the top 12 teams in the state.
Yeah, they were number 12 in the power rankings. That's generally where you get seeded, is like where you are in the power rankings. The difference, though, for them is that they got bumped out because Wells
Ida B. Wells.
Yeah, Ida B. Wells High School in Portland. They won their league, and they were a bid stealer outside of the top 12, but got into the open division because they won their league, and so they got that automatic bid, and it didn't work out for them. They had to go play Central Catholic.
Well, I mean, like you said, it is. We used to have it. It was a 32-team bracket at 6A level. All 32 teams go into the same playoff bracket, and the number 32 team would have to play number 1, and every year, it was just an absolute slaughter, and that's why they've broken it up. Well, number 12 at number 1 still continues to be that same. It is just there is 5 or 6 teams in the state that are head and shoulders above everybody else, and so you got to get through that first round, and then the playoffs kind of actually really start kicking off.
And the thing, too, is I remember in California they had an open division, too. And it didn't really make a lot of sense to me at the time, but it does make a lot of sense to me thinking about it because, like, that open division was always, like, Mater Dei and St. John's and, like, De La Salle and, like, you know, these big-time private schools.
But did those private schools all play at, like, technically, like, different levels? You know, like, we've got 6A, 5A, 4. Did they play a different version? Like...
California is weird.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge, and so like it really depends because like, for example, like my high school, we would play like our league was like Division 3, but like for playoffs we would play like Division 4 or like depending on sport it was different. So like our boys soccer team, our league we were playing in was like Division 4 for like my first 2 years, and then Division 3. Our divisions went D1 was like the highest, D7 was like the lowest.
Okay.
In LA, like there was divisions that went down to Division 14.
What?
And like those schools, and then they'd have to get consolidated for state. And so like for state, like we could have won Valley and played like D3 Valley, but then in playoffs for football for state, we'd go and play like D4 or something or drop down. One of the weirdest situations was my high school. We played in the Division 4 state, Division 4 Valley Championship, so that was like our section in California, and we lost the Valley Championship game. The team that beat us became the number 1 seed in 5A, and we were like the 32 seed in 3A, despite losing. So we got a worse seeding in like a higher division.
Oh, really?
And they got a top seed in a lower division.
Weird.
And it was weird how that like California system works. But like the open, and like to me when I was thinking about it, like when I was going to the high school down there, it was like, oh, like maybe the open divisions for like the private schools, because like, you know, in California there's so many private schools, and like those are like generally where like a lot of the top athletes came from, because like, you know, they get recruited there, they get scholarships to go there, good facilities, good coaches, good history.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Very familiar. Yeah. But now thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense because like, you know, that my school was never going to compete with like a school like Mater Dei, right? And so like it makes sense for a school like Mater Dei, St. John's to have their own division, to have them be able to compete in that way. And it's the same way in Oregon, right? Like you know that Central Catholic's going to be the school to try to beat. Like them and Jesuit consistently are up there. Jesuit in a lower division this year.
Yeah.
Just in the terms of the playoffs. But, you know, like Central Catholic, like, sure, they deserve to be in the open division. Having Lake Oswego in that division makes a lot of sense. Having Tualatin out there, you know, it makes a lot of sense in this state.
Well, for sure.
There's a lot of
that top tier, it makes, I mean, I understand why those teams are there. I understand why you have two brackets. It's not an open division, though. It's not like, you know, this is just a collection of the top. I mean, it is a collection of the top teams, but it's only 6A, and they were seeded there, and that's why they got in. They won their conferences to get in. So I don't know. It's tricky.
See, and that's where I think it should be. It shouldn't be like automatically you get in. Like Wells shouldn't get in unless like they truly believe that they are like one of the top 12 teams.
Yeah,
like Sprague's in. But
they were
in.
They lost to Sheldon a second time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, high school football playoffs are continuing on, and looking forward to it. Oakland, let's talk about these for a minute. We got kind of into it a little bit, but Oakland against Jervis, this matchup I think is going to be interesting. I think it'll be kind of, can Oakland learn from last week in that matchup against Myrtle Point, a team that held Oakland to its fewest points all season. 29 was the lowest that they had all year. They kind of struggled to get the offense rolling until the second half. We started seeing them put three backs, quarterback under center, I formation, three backs back there. They just went ground and pound and just slugged this one out. You know, can they get that passing side of it a little bit more, spread it out, get some guys into space? Can they get that side going against this Jervis team? But this Jervis is a talented defensive team, and I think that this could be quite a grunge match there going into this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've played some teams, and they've done a good job defensively. They held Lowell to just 14 points 2 weeks ago, and they held Stanfield to just 6 points last week. Defensively, on paper, it looks like a very good defensive Jervis team, and they have multiple shutouts this season. And again, you have to look at who they've played, but they've won games. They beat Nestucca 46-0. Oakland won 44-0 against Nestucca. This is a team that won 54-7, 57-0, 63-0, 64-0, 40-0. A lot of shutouts this season.
This Jervis team, this was one thing, I threw this in our notes for tomorrow, that I thought was really interesting. They did not have back-to-back games where they gave up a score all season until these final 3 games of the season. They had shutout, then they gave up 7. Shutout, gave up 27. Shutout, gave up 22. So they did not give up points in back-to-back weeks all season long until the final 3 weeks of the season. Their final league game, they gave up 22, and then the first round of the playoffs, they give up 14 against Lowell, give up 6 last week. So I thought, really, they are the lowest, or they're the best scoring defense in 2A football this year. They've only given up 52 points all year. So you got to know that they're going to fly around to the football, and that this Oakland team is going to be tested to try and find ways to get their offense going after a week last week where they kind of struggled to get things moving.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that you just got to click on the passing game. It felt like the passing game was certainly missing a little bit. Ryan Fullerton, really good game week 1 versus Nestucca. He was perfect out there throwing the football, and they're not a throw-first team. They're a run-first team, but when the ground game wasn't getting going, they needed to throw the ball, and it just felt like they were a little bit off. Props to Myrtle Point Pacific. They brought a lot of pressure. He didn't have a ton of time to throw, and I think that was a big difference, but definitely got to click a little bit more in the passing game to open up the run game a little bit more, and you got to get the run game going from the get-go. But you just got to think, with the depth that they have offensively, with Gabe Williamson on this team, it's going to be tough for 4 quarters for Jervis to try to stop that rushing attack.
I think this is going to be one of their best offenses they've seen all season. Also, we talk about the passing game, but looking at it, 80% chance for rain tomorrow in Cottage Grove. So we are looking at another night where, last week it was cold, but it was dry. This week it's going to be kind of cold and wet. Saturday, we kick off at 4 o'clock on Saturday. National Weather Service saying that there is a 45% chance for rain by that point. So things are going to be starting to taper off a little bit, but it will have been wet throughout the entire day, and there is a chance that we'll see some rain throughout that game tomorrow for the Oakland Okers. It'll be interesting there at Cottage Grove High School. That game's going to be on I-101 FM, and we'll have pregame starting at about 4:15 for you tomorrow, so we hope you tune in and catch the two of us on the radio, bringing you Oakland football there from Cottage Grove High School. All right, let's get to a break here, and when we come back, we're going to dive into the Oregon Ducks. The Oregon Ducks, they have clinched a spot in the Big Ten Championship. How about that? They are moving on to the Big Ten title game, and it took a little while, but the mathematicians, the brains in the Big Ten finally figured it out, and now we know the Ducks are going to the title game in their first year in the Big Ten. We'll talk more about that when we come back. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Thanks for tuning in and joining us. It's presented by BTB Moving. We appreciate you that. We'll get you a sports update here in a moment, but I've got this to tell you about. Right now, it is time for our Wish Upon a Star program. You can nominate someone or a family in need this holiday season, and their wish could get granted. How about that? 541radio.com is where you want to go to submit a nomination, or you could drop off a letter at Road Credit Union on Stevens or Garden Valley in Roseburg. Make sure you put your contact name and phone number in there where you can be reached during the day. We're going to have our first wishes granted starting December 9th, and you can tune in on our news partner, News Radio 93.9 FM and 1240 KQEN. Kyle will air those at 8:30 in the morning during our wish season here. So it's time to try and do a little good around our area, and we are looking to try and make this a special time of year for a lot of folks in Douglas County. So help us out by nominating a person or a family that could use a little bit of help this holiday season. Back after this, a update with Knight Urensky here on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Uretsky. The Oregon Ducks overcame a 12-point deficit against rival Oregon State and stunned the Beavers in a 78-75 victory at Gill Coliseum last night in the only meeting between the two schools this season. Nate Biddle turned in a career night with 23 points and 14 rebounds to lead the comeback for the Ducks. Fellow Oregonian Jackson Shellstad added 15 points for UO. Michael Ratai scored 20 points and had 10 boards to lead the Beavers, who failed to score a field goal in the final 3 minutes of the game. The win stretches Oregon's winning streak in the rivalry series to 8 games and keeps the Ducks undefeated on the year. The loss was the first of the season for the Beavers. The Oregon State men's soccer team lost its NCAA tournament first-round matchup against Gardner-Webb 1-0 at Paul Lorenz Field in Corvallis. The loss means the end of the road for the Beavers. The Running Bulldogs advance on to face off against Denver in the second round on Sunday. OSU managed just one shot on goal in the contest, and Gardner-Webb scored the game winner in the 72nd minute. The Beavers end the year with a 10-5-3 overall record. In the NBA, the Portland Trail Blazers continue a 5-game road trip with a stop in Houston tonight. Portland is dealing with a lengthy injury report and will likely be without a few of its regulars. Matisse Thybulle remains out with an ankle sprain. DeAndre Ayton is doubtful with a finger contusion. Anthony Simons is questionable with a hand injury. And Scoot Henderson is also questionable after leaving Wednesday's game with a hamstring injury. Despite the number of injuries, Portland has won 3 of its last 4. The Blazers will try to get back in the win column tonight against the Rockets. The game tips off at 5 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 4 p.m. right here on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Also coming up this weekend, the high school football playoffs continue. The Oakland Okers face Jervis in the 2A semifinal Saturday at Cottage Grove at 4:30.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Extra, extra! The news you need delivered right to your mailbox for less. Get 2 months of the news review for just $20. Stay up to date with local news, sports, holiday events, and exclusive holiday festivities. Be the first to know about Black Friday deals and Christmas specials. Sign up by December 13th, and you'll be entered to win a $50 B&D Meats gift certificate or a special wildlife safari animal encounter valued at $350. Call the news review today at 957-4244. Subscriptions will revert to regular price after promotional period.
Covering the latest buzz from the gridiron, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Back here in the Score Sports den. I'm just trying to get used to this. Welcome back, everybody.
I love the effort.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't help that I keep starting every segment by welcome back to the, and I'm like, well, now I got to say something. So I guess we get into it.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
By the way, we got tickets.
We do have tickets. Let me get this in real quick. The show presented by BTB Moving. They provide labor services for your moving needs. Veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. Senior and veteran discounts are available. Book now at 541-315-0122 or find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. They will help you out with your next move. If you are moving to a new home, got to move some stuff into storage, whatever it may be, they are there to help you out. That's BTB Moving. So, yeah, we do have tickets to tomorrow's Oregon State football game. It's the last one at home, our last tickets to give away for the football season for the Oregon State Beavers. We will have a pair of tickets to give away to... Oh, we don't have a show next week. We're going to have to find a way to give away those Oregon Duck tickets next week. By the way, no show next week because of Oregon State at Boise State in that 9 a.m. kickoff
game.
So, yeah, our final tickets to give away for the Oregon State football season.
How exciting for you. You get to wrap up the morning report and then into Beaver football.
Right into Beaver football.
And you don't even have to go out there.
You
have the pregame.
I may never leave. I'll just lock the door and then hang out here.
Hear me
might
out.
be good reason to bring in that mini fridge.
Hear me out. Mini fridge, Blackstone, a bed.
A bed? Now do you not remember Matt Bagley said, that's sad for living in the studio. We don't need to go that far. I've got a nice, comfortable bed at home where I've got a loving wife who is likes to see me sometimes. So let's not add to how much I'm at work. And, just one bunny right now. The bunny rabbit. Oh man, she loves me every morning. She knows where I go chop up all the vegetables to put into the lunches for the day. She is just right there, climbing up my leg, trying to get to the table scraps. But we do have tickets to Oregon State football tomorrow. You want to go? You want to go see the final home game of the season for the Oregon State Beavers? Give us a call, 541-673-5551. That's 541-673-5551. We will give them away here on the program. Oregon State hosting number 25 ranked Washington State. That is in the AP rankings, by the way. And you could be there to go see it. You know, Research Stadium is a place where a lot of upsets happen.
Yeah.
Who's saying it doesn't happen this week?
That's what I'm saying.
Let's do it. Let's make some magic happen, Oregon State.
Please call in.
You could be a part of the big upset in the final game at home. And, I mean...
It's the Pac-2 championship. It's Oregon State versus Washington State. We've been talking about how these have been very unique games coming to Research Stadium this year. You know, you get the San Jose State crowd coming to town. You get UNLV coming to crowd. Well, guess what? This is normal. This is Washington State coming to Corvallis. This has been... what's been happening for years and years and years. Yeah. This is that normalcy that you're hoping for.
I think these two teams, maybe not some bulletin board material out there.
I've never gotten into they're our buddy. Oregon State's not our buddy, right? You know what I mean? They would have left us as fast as we would have left them. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. It's one of our biggest rivals now. That's the way I've looked at it, and that's not bulletin board material. I just hope they would say it the same way. Let's go compete. We've been waiting to compete with these guys.
Sorry, Jake Dickert. I didn't mean to make it bulletin board material there.
Great quote.
Great quote. They're not buddies. So I mean, I think this should be a good game. These two teams may not get along all that well.
No, they don't.
They're in similar situations, but that doesn't make them buddies. Doesn't make them pals.
Yeah, I mean, okay, never mind.
All right,
I was gonna say something, but I choose not to.
He will retract his statement. So yeah, give us a call. 541-673-5551 is the phone number. 673-5551. Give us a call, and we've got tickets to give away to you. I wish I had tickets to give away to the Big Ten title game, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be a giveaway
how
that
cool,
we're able
though,
to do.
that Southwest decided that they were going to do nonstop flights from Eugene to Portland.
Yeah.
Eugene to Indianapolis.
From Eugene and Portland, they've added some nonstop flights. They know that Oregon fans are going to be booking up those tickets.
A little pricey, eh?
What were they like? Were they over 400 or?
It was $499 per flight. So
one way.
One way, $499.
Yeah, $1,000, $1,000.
But nonstop. So
I mean, that is nice.
That's your option if you'd like to do that.
That definitely makes life a little easier when you're traveling.
Yeah.
So Oregon's into the Big Ten title game, which begs the question. They've got a bye week this week, and then they are hosting Washington next week. How long do we see the starters out on the field for this one? Do we see the starters out on the field for this one? If Oregon already knows it doesn't matter if they win or lose that game, they're in the Big Ten title game.
It matters because they're going to want to be the number one overall seed in the college football playoff.
I saw that question asked somewhere. Do they rest their starters?
Dude, that's like Joey Galloway type propaganda right there. I don't know. Did you see what he said about Indiana this week?
No, I did not.
He was like, why start Curtis Rourke? Like, just don't play him, and, then you don't avoid him getting hurt like Jordan Travis situation last year for Florida State.
Wow.
And it's like, dude, Indiana is undefeated right now.
Yeah.
They have a chance to go on the road and beat number 2 Ohio State, and you're throwing in the towel already, being like, well, we should save them for the playoff. Like, what kind of logic is that? At the end of the day, number one, Dan Lanning has never beaten Washington.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge motivator.
And that's a huge motivator. Number 2, Oregon's undefeated. They don't want to give that up. They want to be undefeated.
They're the number 1 seed. Yeah, I mean, for sure.
And number 3, like, you just don't want to lose to UW. Like, there's no situation where
it's a rivalry game. Why would you not play the guys that have gotten you to this point? Yeah. Why would you almost like force them to be? I don't want to say it's a punishment for those guys, but like these are the guys that have been playing for you all season that have gotten you to 11-0 on the year. Like, not playing them feels like you're taking away. Like, this is their opportunity to try and beat Washington. For obviously Dylan Gabriel, this is his first time going up against the Huskies in an Oregon uniform, but there's plenty of guys on this team that were a part of the losses the last couple of seasons that I'm sure are licking their chops to try and get an opportunity to beat Washington. And this is their chance to do it and finish off an undefeated regular season. Like, why would you not play the guys that have earned this right to be out there on the field to try and finish off a perfect regular season? Like, that just feels like you'd be almost punishing those guys.
It doesn't make sense. There's no situation where you would do that.
I wish I remember where I saw that. I don't remember.
Was it from a Washington fan? Because it feels like it'd be from a Washington fan.
Let's give them this idea. Maybe we could convince them to not play their good guys because we could use some help. Yeah, it's just
it's like, hear me out, Joey. Like, what if Ohio State just decided, you know what? Let's just not play anybody and let Indiana win this week. Because, Indiana, they deserve it. They've had a good season. They deserve to win another game. So, let's bench Will Howard. Let's bench the entire defense. And
now, I will say this. It would be great if Oregon starters didn't have to play a full 4 quarters against a Washington team that has been beat up this year. But no, there's no chance that they are resting players. I mean, I really wish I'd remember where I saw that.
I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon's like winning by like 45 in the fourth quarter, and they had their backups in. Sure, like then you can take the starters out. But I think that Washington's going to be pretty fired up about this game.
Yeah,
I think that Jed Fish has not necessarily had the best year one, and it's hard. Like, I mean, last year Washington's in the national championship game, and then their coach leaves to Alabama, and now you just don't have a quality team out there competing for a national championship like you did last year. And so it's a big adjustment. It's the same thing with Oregon State, right?
Yeah.
Like Oregon State last year was competing for a Pac-12 title, and going into the season, there was a lot of hopes that, Oregon State maybe could find their way into the college football playoff. And now this season, it just hasn't gone their way. And so same thing for the Beavs going into this game against Washington State. Like, they're going to be pretty fired up about this game, trying to make a bowl and try to win this game and get to bowl eligibility. Washington, on the other hand, they haven't had a quality win this season. I think that this is the week where Washington needs to come in and, reset. They have a bye week just as well. And if you're a Husky fan, this is your Super Bowl. You have nothing else to lose. So, go on the road. You've beaten Oregon the last 3 times you've played them. Why not make it a 4th if you're a Husky fan?
Yeah, I think going – and, I mean, if you are Washington, like this is a rivalry matchup for sure, and especially now in the Big Ten with no Oregon State. Like, this is your chance to go to somebody else's house, pull off an upset against the number 1 team in the nation, and beat a rival and ruin their undefeated season. I mean, there are so many bullet points on what Washington would be playing for.
They also lost the Apple Cup. Like, they already lost their first rivalry game. Like, they don't want to lose this one.
No.
Like, I mean, I don't know how many times in the last 20 years Washington's lost both of those games, because they dominated the Apple Cup for all those years, and Oregon dominated the Washington-Oregon series for tons and tons of years. So, like, I mean, you would have to go do a lot of digging, I'd think, to, like, try to find the last time that Washington lost to Washington State and Oregon in the same season.
So looking ahead, obviously we've got the Washington game coming up next week after Thanksgiving. It'll be that Saturday.
Maybe it's not that far. I'm thinking maybe the last year of Jimmy Lake, they lost to Wazoo and
I could see that.
Oregon. I think that was the last time. But other than that, like, not too many times.
No, I can't see that being something that has happened very regularly. But wow, this game, we got college basketball on the TV here in the den, and this game was like a 2-point game a moment ago. Now it's an 11-point game all of a sudden.
Yeah, Pitt.
Yeah, wow, Pitt and LSU squaring off.
I know, random, like, college basketball at, like, 11 a.m.
It's early in the college basketball season where you just got games happening
They're literally
all
playing
over
this
the place.
game at a random hotel in the middle of West Virginia.
It's a banquet hall in a random hotel, yeah. It is the weirdest looking set. I mean, it's almost weirder than when they play on, like, aircraft carriers and whatnot.
It's literally like the exact gym where you had your school assemblies as a kid.
Looking ahead a little bit here, Oregon in the Big Ten title game. We know they're in there. Have you seen anything, kind of a breakdown on possible matchups for that? Obviously, Indiana, if they could pull off a win, that they probably then punch their ticket, I would think.
You would think they'd punch their ticket, especially with them playing Purdue next week. So, like, they would probably get in for sure. My thing, though, is that, like, this Indiana-Ohio State game's massive.
Yeah.
Massive for Oregon. And I think there's a legit chance that you could say that Indiana's the number 1 team in the country if they beat Ohio State on the road by a touchdown. And I really do. You can make the case. Like, they've dominated every single opponent. Their scoring differential super high. You have, Oregon, their best win of the season's 1 point at home against Ohio State. If Indiana goes on the road and wins against Ohio State on the road by a touchdown, like, their best win is the same team, but on the road by 7 points. Like, they've dominated every other opponent. Like, you can just look at the resumes, and yes, Oregon's played better teams. They've played Boise State.
Yeah.
They've played more competitive Big Ten teams. But at the end of the day, you can only play who's on your schedule. And if Indiana goes out, wins against Ohio State, coming off a bye week, on the road at the Horseshoe, like, you can make the case Indiana's the number 1 team in the country, and Oregon would have number 1 versus number 2 in the Big Ten championship, and the Ducks might be wearing the white jerseys. I think that's a legit opportunity for Indiana. And how awesome would that be? Like, the game's in Indianapolis. Like, Indiana's never had a 10-win season.
Yeah.
The last time Indiana won the Big Ten championship was 1968, I think. I mean, at least that was the last time they were in the Rose Bowl. So,
wow.
Like, those fans, they've been dying for that moment. Selling out Lucas Oil Stadium, easy to do for basketball. They do that all the time in Indiana. They could do that. But for football, I mean, these fans are ready for it. And that's where it's like Oregon could potentially play Indiana number 1 versus number 2. Ducks could be number 2 in one of the most electric atmospheres for any conference championship game ever.
My guess is Oregon, one of those teams, then you're down to it's either going to be Indiana, Ohio State, or Penn State. That'll be
those
the
are the options.
Those are the three teams
yes.
right behind Oregon. Indiana undefeated, Ohio State and Penn State with 1 conference loss. Then it drops to Illinois with 3 conference
that's
losses.
That's just what the Big Ten is right now. It's like those 4 teams and then everybody else.
It took multiple days. Oregon beat Wisconsin on Saturday, and it took until, Tuesday this week for the conference to officially announce that Oregon had clinched a spot in the Big Ten title game. I was just on the Big Ten website. They've got their weekly release that they put out. At the bottom of it, it mentions Oregon has clinched a berth. Here are the remaining clinching scenarios, and it's got a link that's supposed to take you to the remaining clinching scenarios for the other teams to get into the Big Ten title game. The link doesn't work. So it took them 4 days to figure out if Oregon had clinched. No, I'm on Big10.org, and it doesn't work. So it'll be interesting to see. You make great points that if Indiana pulls off this win this weekend, that puts them in a whole completely different light going into that possible Big Ten title game matchup. Is Ohio State, I've heard this mentioned a couple of times. If you look at it right now, Ohio State is the odds-on favorite to win the Big Ten title, despite the fact that Oregon's undefeated, number 1 in the country, and has already clinched their spot in that Big Ten title game. Ohio State's the odds-on favorite in Vegas to win it. So is that the one matchup that you are rooting against happening in the Big Ten title game? Would you take Indiana? Would you take Penn State? And then Ohio State is your last team you want to see in that matchup?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to see Ohio State again. Like, I think that Ohio State, again against Oregon would be tough for the Ducks to come away with a victory. Maybe I'm wrong. But, that kind of is that. It's
not a matchup. Look, I didn't feel great about it going into the matchup the first time, which is really,
maybe it's like that like Washington won the Pac-12 championship last year. Maybe I'm shocked because I really thought the Ducks were going to roll into the Pac-12 championship, and it was like, you're not beating this team twice. Oregon went on the road and lost the game against Washington because they missed a field goal at the end of the game, and frankly, Washington kind of dominated that Pac-12 championship game.
Completely.
From the first quarter. Oregon was competitive, and they took the lead, and they came back. But that first quarter, Washington came in, and they had a game plan. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Oregon goes in and does that against Ohio State. I just neutral site, closer to Columbus.
Yeah,
a lot more Ohio State fans in the building. That makes me a little bit more weary. I think that Oregon matches up better against Indiana and Penn State. A big word that's been being tossed around this week is the blue chip rate, especially with this Indiana
that blue chip ratio.
Ohio State game. There are so many blue chip prospects on Ohio State, not many on Indiana. But Indiana's been competing this year, that underdog mentality, and we'll have to see. They played Michigan close. Michigan played them close, and Michigan's probably the roster with the most talent on it comparable to Ohio State this season. But there's a lot for Indiana to be playing for. New coach.
Oh, for sure.
New coach with a new contract.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big storyline going into this game. You have a bye week. You're undefeated. Everyone's counting you out. Coach is cocky. I love Kirk Cignetti.
Yeah, right? You've been on this Indiana bandwagon.
I've been on the Indiana bandwagon. Him and my boy Curtis Urk. But we'll see. I'm very excited for today to be over with and just wake up tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
We've got football on the brain here. Obviously we're doing this program, but then tonight we got the high school game of South Medford and Newburgh. Then Knight's got it all mapped up. He's doing the game tonight. He wakes up tomorrow morning, gets to watch Indiana and Ohio State, and then we're off to Cottage Grove for Oakland Oakers football as well.
Skokers, baby.
So going to be a jam-packed day for the young Knight Uretsky coming up tomorrow.
Yeah. Speaking of Curtis Work, we're going to get to it the next segment, but brother in the CFL, went to a CFL game this past weekend, went to the Grey Cup. You got to watch the Grey Cup?
I did. It's not just American football that we cover here on the program with our insider who was at the Grey Cup over the weekend. You are about to get your tutorial into everything Canadian football when we come back as we wrap wrap up the hour number 2 and wrap up this Friday edition of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. We'll have that for you in just a moment. But don't forget, we've got tickets to go see Oregon State. If you called in and I didn't see it, this is the worst thing about the studio here, and all the studios are the same, so it's not just ours. But it's one small flashing light on the board that is easy to miss to let you know that somebody's calling in. So if you called in and I somehow missed it, I apologize. But here's your chance. Call us at 541-673-5551. That's 541-673-5551. We want to give you tickets to go see Oregon State football tomorrow, and we'll do that during the break if you call in here to the Score. 541-673-5551.
We're your holiday hub for unbeatable bargains at your local Coastal.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, with just what the country needs.
Visit us from Wednesday, November 20th through Monday, November 25th, and save before Black Friday. Check out our toy selection for the latest arrivals and find the perfect activity for your energetic child, like farm hoppers, inflatable bouncy toys that come as a pig, cow, or unicorn. And we haven't forgotten about your pets. Give your best buds a reason to celebrate with buy one, get one 50% off all pet treats from brands like Bacon Strips, Pepperoni, and Nulo. Prepare your wardrobe for new temperatures with new offers and apparel, including a free $20 Coastal gift card when you buy a pair of Ariat boots for men or women in store. Discover great discounts like these store-wide and online.
Coastal Farm and Ranch, with just what the country needs.
Catch Black Friday deals today and save even more at Coastal.
Your total comes to $389, and here's $100 just for shopping with us.
Well, she's all full. Here's a brand new big screen TV just for stopping by.
These things don't just happen unless you listen to your local radio. We give away free prizes just for tuning in. Check out all the contest rules online at 541radio.com and score big just for listening to your station. The Score 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
As we move into the season of Thanksgiving, the staff at Travel Leaders Flyway Travel would like you to know there are so many reasons to get out of town. Breaking up your routine and trying something new can be a life-enhancing experience. We travel to learn about other cultures, discover new locales, make new friends, and just have fun. Whether you're thinking of a weekend or a month, Travel Leaders Flyway Travel has the expertise to get you there. We're grateful for travel and for our customers. Call us at 672-5701 and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Free car washes for the rest of the year at the Roseburg Jiffy Lube. Through November, save big with $20 off their signature service oil change. Includes up to 5 quarts of oil and spin-on oil filter. They'll check your engine lights, fluids, tires, and brakes at Roseburg Jiffy Lube.
Concrete Builder Supply specializes in all things concrete, from pouring to finishing to restoration. You'll find all the tools such as trowels, floats, and knee boards, as well as a wide variety of stamps and dies. If you're starting a project, stop by Concrete Builder Supply and have all your questions answered, whether you're a first-time do-it-yourselfer or a contractor. Concrete Builder Supply is here for you. Go to concretebuildersupply.com and see their inventory, or stop by on Diamond Lake Boulevard right behind Budget Lumber.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundedouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Talking prep football, Beavers, Ducks, and the NFL. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Well, one more segment to go here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Knight Uretsky, along with me, Joey Keyran. It's great to be with you here on this Friday afternoon. A quick programming note that reminder, next week we are off because Beaver football will be on the airwaves starting at 7 a.m. Whew, that is an early morning for Mike Parker out in and the Oregon State broadcast crew out in Boise City.
My good.
Yeah.
What, they're getting to the stadium 5 a.m.?
God, man, I mean, what? Usually I try to...
Thankfully, Boise is an hour ahead of us.
Okay, there is that.
So,
but still.
8 a.m. local time. They're getting to the stadium at like 6. Like, what time, like, as an engineer, you're probably getting there at
usually,
5?
Usually I try, when I'm engineering and setting up gear, For basketball, I'm there 2 hours ahead of time. I got to imagine football is a little bit bigger of a setup with sidelines, with all the other stuff you've got going on. So, yeah, I'd imagine at least maybe 3 hours. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I would probably want to get there earlier than that.
Probably,
but,
that's an early.
I mean, that's like 5 a.m., yeah. That's going to be an early morning. But lucky for you, you don't even have to roll out of bed. Just make sure you've got a radio at your bedside and you can tune into the Score for pregame coverage of Oregon State football. That'll be Black Friday. Maybe you're going to be out doing your shopping. You can tune in on the 541 radio app and take the game with you, and then you can go do your Black Friday shopping and stay up to date with the Beavs as well. 7 a.m. pregame, 9 o'clock kickoff here on the Score next Friday, 1 week from today. So we will not have a show that Friday after Thanksgiving, but we'll have Beaver football for you. So, Knight, you made the journey to Vancouver, BC.
Yep.
Last weekend. You got to see a streaker. You got to sit in the stands. You got to enjoy.
True.
That's my highlight of the Grey Cup was the streaker. But
the text I sent you, like
that's now my backdrop on my phone. No, that's not true.
Dude,
but that lady was. Ooh.
I was so shocked about that because I've seen streakers before, but not an actual streaker,
like somebody that's actually butt naked.
Yes, like I've seen streakers run onto the field and like they've run and like they've been clothed, and then surely like a linebacker just lays a hit, or like the police officers chase them. I've been to a baseball game, somebody jumps off the Fenway sign in center field, kind of that what was that movie with Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore?
Oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if I ever actually saw that movie, just bits and pieces of it.
Fever Pitch.
Yeah,
that's the movie.
It.
So there's like a scene in Fever Pitch where like Drew Barrymore is like all the way across the field, like in center field, and she's like has to get to like the third base dugout side, and she like jumps off of like the green monster, basically not the full green monster, but like kind of like in the outfield in Fenway, and runs across the whole field to get to like Jimmy Fallon. Like I've seen that sort of situation before. I've never seen somebody bare naked out there. Like like. When I went to Canada, like I thought I'd see maybe like the Bare Naked Ladies, like the band, but not like an actual bare naked lady on the field, because that was crazy.
I saw a bare naked lady. Oh, they were the pregame act. The pregame act. No, she was running out there in the fourth quarter. It was great.
Exactly. But no, that was definitely something. She was unanimously named MVP across my Twitter timeline. It was like all across Canada. It was just all these people just being like MVP.
She was trending. Yes, for sure.
She was trending. But that was like one of the exciting parts of the game.
Our Toronto Argos are your Grey Cup champions.
What a story, eh? Like
you tell me, I don't know.
So the Argos, their starting quarterback breaks his ankle in the semifinal game, and you got Nick Arbuckle, a backup quarterback, career backup in the CFL.
Did he bring Garfield with him or?
No. I don't
know. John Arbuckle is the Garfield's.
Well, this is Nick Arbuckle.
You said Arbuckle.
Okay.
Garfield was what popped in my head.
But here's the situation. Career backup was considering retirement before the start of the season. He was going to retire after 5 years being a backup in the CFL. And ultimately, the Argos reached out to him in late May and say, hey, like, you want to come out for a tryout? Goes to the tryout, signs with the team, backup the entirety of the season. Chad Kelly, the starter, Jim Kelly, former Buffalo Bill quarterback, his nephew, breaks his ankle in the semifinals. Arbuckle comes in. He's never started a CFL playoff game in his life, and his first start in the CFL playoffs is the Grey Cup, the biggest stage of us all. Like, just right into the mix, right? Everybody's counting him out. We're talking, like, every single media going into like the week of Grey Cup is like a whole week event. They have like events the entire week, like concerts, like big hype ceremonies, different tailgates. It's kind of like the Super Bowl, big time event. And all week they're counting out the Argos. The Blue Bombers are going to come in, dominate. Blue Bombers have made 5 straight Grey Cups. They've won 2 of the last 4 Grey Cups. They're playing against the Argos, who have won the most Grey Cups, but the Blue Bombers have been in the most Grey Cups all time. And Arbuckle comes in, throws 252, 2 touchdowns. Argos score 24 points in the fourth quarter. They run away with it, win 41-24. So exciting. But there's so much. You got to watch the CFL for the first time, right?
I did watch on CBS Sports.
Yeah. What did you think of the CFL?
I mean, I was watching. It was on my phone while I was making dinner, and I swear every time I looked down, it felt like I was like, oh, here's this team's got the ball. They got the drive. Okay, I'm going to chop some carrots. I look back down, and now the other team's going the other. So real quick here as we're wrapping it up here, because I'm sure there's plenty of things that if I watched it regularly, you pick up. But biggest difference between Canadian football and American football, like rules-wise.
What would it be?
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot.
The biggest one would be like the downs, right?
Yeah.
Like there's only 3 downs instead of 4.
3 downs to get 10 yards, so it's instead of 4 downs to get 10 yards in American football, it's 3 downs to get 10.
Correct. The field's wider.
Yeah.
So the field's wider and the field's longer. So there's more space. There's pre-snap movement. So
that one kept throwing me off. Was watching guys running to the line like. The timing of that has to be super difficult.
Yeah, it's super difficult. And you saw it a few times in the game where a team's offside because they didn't snap the ball in time and the guy ran past the line of scrimmage.
I mean, that makes it feel like it's got to be hard to then try and draw teams offside.
It is a little bit, and that's tough too. But also, you get a little bit of an advantage as a wide receiver because you get a head start.
You're already going full speed.
Exactly, and so there's pluses and minuses to it. I like it. It creates a lot of movement and it creates a lot of unique packages and whatnot.
To get more explosion plays.
It's just a completely different game. The way that I was trying to explain this to my cousins, because my cousins they watch CFL football, but they're like, the NFL is so much better, and I'm like, yeah, no duh, but it's also a different game. You're trying to compare NFL to rugby. Rugby and football have some similarities to it, but there's a lot of differences it. Canadian football is the same way. There's different rules in it. There's a rouge, which you didn't even know.
Yeah, I know, but I guarantee most you might find one person on our airways.
Dude, rouges are electric. When Toronto kicked the ball, so a rouge is every single ball is live, and so if you punt the ball, you have to return the ball. You just have to.
You can't just let it hit and roll.
If it rolls into the end zone, there's no touchback. There's no such thing as a touchback in the CFL. And so it's great because it creates a lot of unique field position battles. You could punt the ball and get it inside the 5-yard line. And, if they bring it out of the end zone, they're tackled at the 5, they have to go 105 yards to go down the field because the field's 110 yards, right? So that's a long ways to go for them. And you only have to stop them on 2 downs so you could get good field position. I'm running myself into a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
but
and we got to start wrapping it up.
Just to wrap things up. So if you don't get it out of the end zone, you get 1 point. And so the Argos were down 9-10 at the half, start the second half with a long drive, punt the ball, and it ends up in the end zone, and they get a point out of it, and they tie the game 10-10. I love it. I love it because it just creates exciting finishes. It creates exciting games. And, they got the rouge. They tied it up. They scored a touchdown. They took the lead. And, the Argos.
Our Argos.
Argos.
They're not your Argos. They're not my Argos.
Yeah, I know.
They're Argos.
Our Argos. I do have an Argos bobblehead on my desk.
I know you do.
I have a Doug Flutie, 2-time Grey Cup champion, eh?
Oh, boy. Well, we have run out of time.
Great fun.
We have run over time, but I'm glad you enjoyed the Grey Cup.
I could talk more about the Grey Cup and how
good news
better it is than the Super Bowl.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. To talk some more football. Night we'll have more on the Grey Cup and Canadian football, and by that point we'll know who Oregon's playing in the Big Ten title game. We'll know what the future is for the Oregon State Beavers. So much to discuss when we come back in 2 weeks. Next week it's Beaver football here on a Friday for you on The Score. So talk to you then, folks. Have a great rest of your Friday. Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move.